Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Luther and I, and everyone in this arena tonight, are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on. And it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they died for. Right on. And we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the wolf.
They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saying 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy.
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians. When Irish love Irish. But when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin. They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people. Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu. All white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control. which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 months before me. 3. There are only 2 possible explanations. 5 months before me. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Control me! I'm gonna smash the fucking You can't make me do anything like prick!
Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga. And if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
Well, I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
That's true.
I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? Knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. He said, "Brother Greg, you coming by today?" And I said, "Malcolm, I love you." And I said, "I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there." He said, "What do you mean, Brother Greg?" I said, "Well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East." And I said, "But I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning. And I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport. And I'm going to go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm going to stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not going to let this government get 2 of us for the price of 1. And I'm going to call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government is going to get you."
Yeah, was good, everybody, was good. That's right. Your whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Mind, is back in the house again. Want to say what's good to my subscribers out there. What's good, fam? Passerbys, welcome. Agents, you do what you do. Tonight's show is really just going to be just really just some general, as the title says, some general news, right? Just stuff that, you know, just sit back and just kind of just observe. There won't be too many of the discussion unless you want to get involved in it, but it's going to be some things that are going to be put out there for some food for thought, because there's been a lot of news going on as usual. And so I'm just going to do a general show tonight, just for the simple fact of what, you know, got off last night. So tonight I'm just going to kind of give you some general news, and we'll go from there. And as needed to intervene to talk about it, I shall do that. But, you know, again, this world that we live in, there's always some constant stuff going on, and sometimes the underlying things we don't know why they do what they do, but they're not being done. So today we're going to take it to the Windy City. Something happened today in the Windy City that I think is going to probably make national news if you don't already know. So I'm going to give you what was put out there, and then, you know, I may cut it because I know it's pretty long, but so those that get you caught up on some of the events that's going on. And this is how it goes. Sit back for a minute, check it out.
At least a dozen other ambulances and other police vehicles. I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of the ambulances are here just in case there's a mass casualty situation inside. We're not, of course, getting any word about that right now. But while I was driving up, I saw, gosh, at least 24 people leaving, walking towards a parking lot. They were inside the hospital when gunfire erupted. They're a little unclear. I spoke to one woman, you're going to hear from her in just a moment, a little unclear on exactly how many shooters there were because it was chaotic. She was in the lobby waiting to go up to the 12th floor when all of this broke out, and suddenly somebody told everybody, get inside the offices. There's a shooting situation. But let's take a listen, if we have that, to what she told me right after she was able to leave Mercy Hospital here just about 5 minutes ago.
The offices, and to close the doors and to keep silent everything.
So you were like in the lobby?
Yes.
And was there one shooter or more than one shooter?
Oh, we weren't able to see, but I think there were more than one. They were trying to get inside the offices as well.
So, and you heard the shots?
Yes.
How many shots?
Tons.
And you said there was blood everywhere?
In the main entrances.
Okay, so you were, and then did the shooting stop?
Yes, just a couple of minutes ago.
Okay, you're okay. You're okay. I'm so sorry. What is your name?
Maria.
Maria what, Maria?
Correa.
How do you spell it?
Correa.
Okay, everybody, we are being told by a police officer here to move off of the middle of the intersection, so bear with me here. So Maria was also telling me, you didn't hear all of that interview, but she was telling me that they went inside offices. They were told to hide under the furniture, which they did. She had her little baby with her at the time, too. Obviously very shaken up. But again, we're still trying to determine, as you are, exactly how many shooters there were and if anyone returned fire. You may know more about that than I do at this point. But again, we are being asked to relocate, so we're going to do that right now. Bear with my cameraman as he and I walk across the street. But that's all I'm able to tell you right now. We're going to keep trying to talk to people here as we get acclimated also to what is going on. Rob and Erica.
Dana, good work out there. You're now looking at a picture from Chopper 2 above the scene that Dana was just describing right there, and very frightening as they try to get their arms around what's happened here. So we know at least one possible offender has been shot. We don't know the condition of that person, and we do not know exactly how many victims there are here at Mercy Hospital on the south side of Chicago as we continue to cover this breaking news story that started maybe about half an hour ago.
Yes, and right now, from this view from Chopper 2, you can see many ambulances right there in the front bay. We were seeing officers walking towards the hospital, which falls in line with what the CPD is actually saying on their tweets right now, that they're going through a methodical search of Mercy Hospital. And we heard from Dana's witness, they're very chilling, talking about how they had to hide under furniture when all of this was starting to unfold. And thankfully that family got out. But so many more, of course, are on the scene there. So we're waiting to hear the status of whether there is still an active shooter and how many could potentially be injured.
Yeah, and we have some more video right now and sound from another witness. Let's take a look at that.
One, but they're saying two. And then one officer shot inside the hospital. That's all I know.
And you're safe. How far would you say you were from this?
At least a couple feet. Like we got the emergency room right there, and right where that white van is, that's where we were. So it's like maybe half of, like 25 feet.
So were you outside the hospital or inside?
Inside.
You were inside.
Looking out the window, watching him.
So the shooting happened outside?
Yeah, the shooting happened outside, then he made his way inside the hospital. And I think they're looking for him still. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I know we just talked about it, but we're live now. Can you walk me through what you saw as you were in the hospital?
Sitting down and going about our business, waiting for our results, and then I heard shots fired. I turn around to my right, and I see a man shooting someone on the ground, and then shot him multiple times. And then almost immediately, an officer was already coming in their SUV, and he changed fire at them, and then reloaded, shot the person on the ground again, and then he made his way inside the hospital. More shots were fired.
So how many people did you see shot?
I heard at least two, and then I heard on the radio that an officer was shot as well.
And you said you saw him. What was he wearing, and did he say anything to you?
Black pants. He didn't say nothing. I mean, I'm inside, he's outside. So.
And what kind of gun?
It was a handgun, I believe. Yeah.
What's going through your head right now?
This is messed up. I mean, it's horrible. I don't know. I'm really in shock because, like, I'm used to, like, these certain situations where shots are fired in my neighborhood, but to see something like this, it's cruel.
So to clarify, you were inside the hospital. The shooting happened outside in the parking lot.
Yeah, I've been outside in the hospital in the parking lot. Right where you come inside, before you can come inside the park at this parking lot, right there.
And you guys are safe?
We're safe, thank the Lord.
Yeah. And what were you doing in the hospital? You said you were waiting for tests?
Yeah, I'm waiting for test results for my wife.
Got it. And where do you guys go now from here? You're loading the bus?
Waiting on the bus and then wait for it to clear. So I can go back inside and grab my bag so I can get my keys so we can just head home.
Now, did you watch this unfold, or was it the police response that made you guys?
I watched everything unfold, and I saw the officers come in. So I've basically seen everything.
Got it. And as far as you know, you saw one shooter?
One shooter.
One shooter. Wearing all black.
All black.
Handgun, you believe?
Handgun, yeah. Multiple clips. Yeah, clips.
Got it. Did you see an officer get injured or hurt?
I did not.
You did not see an officer. Anything else you want to add or get across?
No, that's it.
Okay, what was your name?
Hector.
Hector what?
Avia.
Can you spell that?
A-V-I-T-I-A.
Thank you. I'm glad you're safe. Now you heard from somebody who was in the hospital. Both these people, they're evacuated the hospital. They're now getting on to a CTA bus. The gentleman who you just heard from telling me that he saw at least one shooter. He was dressed in all black. Did not say anything. But again, the man who I spoke to was inside. He says that the shooting happened outside of the hospital. He saw at least one, possibly two victims in all this. As you see now, there's more hospital staff. You can see doctors in white coats, hospital personnel walking from the hospital onto these CTA buses as there has been a shooting near the entrance of Mercy Hospital right here.
Can you hear us? We understand you were just interviewing that man, Hector, and we're seeing your shot. It sounds like he's trying to talk to other passengers, or excuse me, members, employees of the hospital there. Charlie, can you hear us?
Were you guys inside the hospital?
Yeah. As he tries to get some more information. Okay, let's listen in here.
Okay, I was waiting for my doctor's appointment, and then they told us to go back in the room and lock the doors, and we just heard several gunshots.
And where were you in the hospital?
I was inside of my doctor's office.
And you saw what? Walk me through that.
I didn't see anything. I was coming out, and I was waiting on my doctor's appointment, and then this young man came from the front, and he told us that there was an altercation in the hallway, don't come out yet. And then the next thing we heard was to go in the room and lock the doors, and then we just heard several gunshots.
And what's going through your head right now?
I'm safe. I made it.
Did you see any of the victims here?
No, I saw nothing.
You didn't see the shooter?
No.
Got it. So you found out because somebody came and told you that there was a shooting going on?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And you were with
Same thing, yeah. Same thing. We on our way out the hospital. They told us to go back in. Something going on. We heard the shots. We went in the room, locked the door.
And knowing that somebody was shot here, how are you feeling right now?
Safe. Like she's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are you guys doing from here? Where are you guys going from here?
Going to the car and going to go home.
I'm glad you guys are safe. What's your guys' names?
My name is Sheila.
Sheila, can you spell it for me?
S-H-E-I-L-A.
Your last name?
Triplet. T-R-I-P-L-E-T-Z.
Trent Triplet. T-R-E-N Triplet.
So you're listening to an interview Charlie DeMar is conducting with witnesses who were inside the hospital at the time, and what's confusing still is that one person has said it happened right outside the hospital, one person said it's happening in the hallway. So as we get information here at 3:59 in the afternoon, we're getting the best information we can get. We're trying to air only the things that we know that are confirmed, that are real, and right now it's still a little bit confusing as to what's going on, but we knew at least one offender has been shot, and right now we're going to join Dana Kozlov once again live on the scene for us. Dana, what can you add?
Rob, I can elaborate a little bit on the confusion. Of course, nothing has been confirmed yet. In fact, Deputy District Chief for the fire department just arrived and walked by, and I said, can you tell us anything? He said, not yet. As you can see, the response here outside Mercy Hospital is growing by the minute. More and more police cars, more and more fire trucks arriving. But let me go back to the confusion between whether this happened inside or outside. The woman I spoke with a short time ago who was in the waiting room in the hospital when all of this broke out said that she believes, and again, nothing is confirmed yet, she believes the shooting started outside the hospital, and then she believes, she's not sure, that it continued then inside the hospital. Because if you remember, she said, and I hate to be graphic here, she said there was blood inside the lobby. So yes, it is something we are certainly trying to work out here. Of course, though, you know, this is an ongoing and escalating situation in terms of the response, but I think that's partly why there's some confusion. It is possible that it started outside Mercy Hospital and then continued inside the hospital, and that's when those who were in the waiting area, the lobby, were told to go inside offices in the area and get under furniture. But again, there are more and more police vehicles, more and more fire rescuers and ambulances and fire vehicles heading to the scene. There are sharpshooters out. I'm sure you've seen some of them walking the perimeter around the hospital with their weapons drawn. Everybody, though, still trying to assess exactly what's happening. I don't know if Scott's able to move with me, but I will show you, kind of give you an idea of the response here. So bear with us as we move the camera and we walk out into a street. But Scott, if you can see the sharpshooter there who, and we don't want to get too close on him. We're shooting him from behind, so we can only see the back of him, which is what we want. But he has also just arrived, and now he is gearing up to presumably head more towards the hospital for any sort of response that's needed. You've got fire department personnel right there. They're bringing equipment into the scene too. So as you know, and as we've been saying, it's still a very active scene. It's still very hard to confirm anything, except I can tell you again and quickly reiterate what Maria, the woman I spoke with before, who was just a patient waiting, going to the 12th floor with her baby. She just said she believes this started outside. They heard lots of gunshots. She believes then it might have continued inside the hospital. Everybody that was in that particular area of the hospital was told to go in offices. We are going to do our best to talk to any police personnel or fire personnel on the scene and ask them to confirm anything for us. But in situations like this, obviously, it could be quite some time before we're able to get anything specifically confirmed, which of course is very, you know, understandable.
Yeah. Much, Dana.
All right, so that is the situation that happened today in Chicago. The story came out later that it was 2 hospital employees and a policeman who were gunmen, and the gunman dead, right? And this is kind of what the report says. It said that the Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson says the 4 dead in the shooting at Mercy Hospital included 2 hospital employees, a Chicago police officer, and the suspect gunman. Goes on and says that Mayor Rahm Emanuel says the 2 hospital employees were a doctor and a pharmacy assistant. Johnson says that the shooting began outside the hospital with a verbal altercation in the parking lot between people who knew each other. And it goes on and says a friend tried to intervene, and then the suspect gunman pulled out from up under his shirt and showed a weapon. The gunfire erupted and the shooters ran inside the hospital where police confronted him. He said that one of the women killed was in a domestic relationship with the gunman. And I think that's all I got for right now on that. So, again, situation that happened up in Chicago. Again, we know that, you know, the reports about the gun violence due to the simple fact that is, you know, the environment, the urbanness, the accessibility to firearms when there are no gun shops in the city limits is what really is, you know, befuddles most people who understand the dynamic that goes on in Chicago. And then if you remember that those who frequently watch my videos, you know I talked about where I did the dissertation about the stuff that was happening in Chicago, and they talked about the one brother talked about the crates of guns that are dropped off and guns that have come from the, you know, from off the freights of the trains. And so when you see a lot of videos, you see the type of weaponry that a lot of the brothers have. These guns are not guns that you actually can even get right up in, you know, in the gun shops. And so now that it's so rampant and so much, it's like, I mean, gunplay is always going to be, you know, the confrontation is always going to seem to be ending up with somebody pulling a gun out. And, you know, we as, you know, black people, you know, this is the one part we just kind of, you know, get sick of seeing due to that when people have differences that they have to resolve it in gunplay. Well, I'm to the meeting of the minds where if we got a situation, according to the story, because again, what you seen there was when it was in its moments. It had happened, right? And then people reacting and so forth, and then everybody's coming on the scene. That's why you're seeing them scrambling, asking. They don't have everything in concrete as into what's going on, so they're kind of asking. And so, you know, according to the story, it says it was domestic. So that means that, again, it's probably most likely two brothers getting into it about, you know, somebody having a relationship or somebody having some outside of a relationship. And, you know, feelings and emotions get depending on the maturity you got. And, you know, it's spilled inward into the hospital according to what they're saying. One place if you're going to get shot would be at a hospital, right? If you had to get shot, you would prefer to get shot there, but based on where you got shot and the way it was, again, they're talking about 4 people died. But you had 2 people that had nothing to do with the incident and end up losing their life. And so it's like, you know, it's tragic on all sides of the equation. Was no winners in this. And there's families who now are going to be mourning over, you know, really just loss of life. So tonight I just said I was going to just go ahead and do some just general news. There's police stuff out here. And so that was just that story for those who didn't hear about it, but you will be hearing about it because, again, it's in Chicago. And anytime we get some gunplay, you definitely are going to hear when it gets on that magnitude. So I want to say what's good, CDG. I see you out there, sweetheart. Hey to you too. This story here, again, I'm going to be doing a lot of little random stuff, but it's news out here, right? I didn't want to skip tonight and not do anything. So I got some stuff, a little interesting. Again, you know, some things just for the mind, right? So here's something that was out there. Let me put this out here.
Scientists say a massive, fast-moving visitor to our solar system may have been a probe sent by an advanced alien civilization.
Feedback, not the way I want it though. Okay, let's try it again. And start again. Let's get it.
Scientists say a massive, fast-moving visitor to our solar system may have been a probe sent by an advanced alien civilization. Astronomers were excited to discover the interstellar object last year. It was named Oumuamua. That's Hawaiian for messenger or scout. Tony DeCopel takes a look at the evidence behind the controversial theory. He's at New York's Hayden Planetarium. Tony, what a story. Good morning.
Yeah, I hope your son's watching. Good morning. Quick astronomy lesson. What you're looking at here is a meteorite. That came from our solar system, basically our own intergalactic backyard. Oumuamua, by contrast, is the first observed object to come from outside of our solar system. And get this, once it got here, it behaved in ways that scientists can't quite explain, which is why this team of Harvard scientists is floating a theory that even they admit is a little out there. When Oumuamua was discovered last October, it was tumbling past the sun at 196,000 miles per hour. To some, the reddish object looked like a cigar. Others thought it was shaped like a pancake.
It looks very different from objects that we have found in the solar system.
Avi Loeb, chair of the Harvard University Astronomy Department, said Oumuamua did not behave like an ordinary asteroid or give off gas like a comet.
There seemed to be an extra force that is pushing it, and it's not clear what this push is from.
In an upcoming paper, he and a colleague offer what they call a more exotic scenario. Oumuamua may be a fully operational probe sent intentionally to Earth vicinity by an alien civilization. According to their calculations, Oumuamua is less than 1 millimeter thin, but very wide like a sail, harnessing solar radiation to propel itself, similar to the spacecraft used by Count Dooku in the Star Wars films.
I just want everybody to take that with a gigantic grain of salt.
Jackie Faraday is an astrophysicist at the American Museum of Natural History. She says Oumuamua did not give off any signals suggesting it was a spacecraft.
If you say that the top 10 list of explanations does not include alien probe, what is on that list?
It's a comet.
Or an asteroid.
Or an asteroid, or a rock.
So then where is alien civilization on the list of explanations?
I don't know, real low. real low.
Faraday doubts Oumuamua's appearance means we're on the verge of an alien encounter, like the one in the movie Arrival.
Oumuamua, as it stands, is a phenomenal discovery and a really important object for astronomers to study and for the public to get excited about. It's okay that it's not aliens.
Now, Oumuamua is out of our solar system and we can no longer see it with our satellites. Now, Faraday does have a theory for why we keep coming up with these exotic explanations. As hard as it is to fathom the existence of aliens, it's apparently even harder for us to fathom the idea that we're alone. Nora?
I just like hearing Tony say Oumuamua.
Oumuamua.
Yeah, I like that.
Oumuamua. You could meditate.
Yes.
Saying that over again. Tony, thank you.
Oumuamua. Right? You heard that. You heard that little part they said in there talking about some aliens sending that here, right? Well, maybe something else other than an alien, what they call alien, all right? Because some people who are, let's say, religious may talk about there may be some prophecy, may have something to do with, you understand? Could be something to do with the Nation of Islam, talking about the, what they say, they got the spaceship, the wheel, right? So again, Oumuamua is the first interstellar object detected passing through the solar system, formerly designated in 2017 U1. It was discovered by Robert Welk using the Pan-STARRS telescope, right, in Hawaii on October 19th of 2007. It said 40 days after it passed its closest point to the sun. And the first seen it was about 33 million kilometers from the Earth and already heading away from the sun. Right? So they say possible aliens could be a stealth kind of spaceship where we're going to come out and, because again, you know, based on how our people look at the dire situations and trying to come up with plans on how to do something, maybe there could be something as, again, you know, because, you know, matter of fact, before I go any further, I don't even think I did my spiel tonight. I just kind of came on, right? I'm sitting here thinking about that. So I better go because, again, maybe this has something to do with it. So let me get that out the way. Hello and welcome to the Mr. Blows Your Mind show. I'm your host, the Whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Mind. This channel is to report, transmit, communicate, translate, reiterate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether it's about video, website, quotes, or from publications. As I articulate these information, I ask that the creator of the universe be present. And in honor of those who created the greatest country from the greatest people that was ever produced in this land, as our ancestors, on this channel over here, we give honor. Because the truth don't need no partner. And my motto is, I ain't going to tell you what I heard. I'm going to tell you what I know. Now, talking about the universe. Maybe that's what that is. Maybe they got something to do with that. You know, because sometimes when they try to tell us things, right, they always got some long explanation, some calculable things that they came up with. But something that's unexplainable that they can't really tell you, right? And so it's out there. And they don't know where it came from. It's just some, again, intergalactic. It's just something that's out there that just can't explain. And they just say, well, maybe it has something to do with this and maybe with that. Yeah, but we know that everything has a season, right? There's a appointed time for everything. Those who want to go into that, the Bible talks about Ecclesiastes. I think it's through, 6 through 5 or something like that. You're talking about there's a appointed time for everything. So again, those things outside of this realm is something that's happening according to everything that's happening within. Right? So just stay tuned. Again, they always give you a little something about something that's out there. They can't explain it. They're going to give you something. They're talking about Star Wars. I don't know what the hell Star Wars got to do with any of that, but that fictional stuff. But anyway, let's see. Well, since we talked about Chicago, right, and we were seeing that what was taking place in Chicago, there's another thing that's kind of going on in Chicago. It's kind of like what happened over in Michigan, right in Michigan, Detroit, right? And you have there's a sister named Radical Home Goddess. She talks about Fukushima, right? And about all that, if anybody y'all know about what happened over in Japan and how those reactors and all that waste that came into the water, right? And so look how they really kind of evacuate in California with these fires that they keep happening that nobody knows how they seem to happen. And then plus they got the drought of water and so forth. So now what we got is, again, as I said about Detroit, so look at this story here. They're talking about what's going on in Chicago. Check this out.
Sam Corona fears that pouring from his tap is a blend of life-giving water and brain damage.
When I was younger, I remember going to the filtration plants and taking a tour of it and being told this is the safest drinking water in the world, right? When I was like 11, 13 years old. And here I am, 37 years old, finding out that there's lead inside the water.
Over the past 2 years, the Chicago Tribune tested water from nearly 3,000 homes. In nearly 70% of the samples, the newspaper found lead. In 3 out of 10 samples, lead levels exceeded 5 parts per billion, the maximum level the U.S. Food and Drug Administration allows in bottled water. It's a health hazard in cities across the United States and around the world. Lead causes brain damage, especially in children. Flint, Michigan recently stopped delivering bottled water to residents after declaring its lead water crisis over. Some cities, including Chicago, actually required lead service lines between the main drinking water line in the street and homes until Congress banned the practice in 1986.
There's an irony here. The Great Lakes of North America are the largest source of fresh water in the world. Water from Lake Michigan is generally lead-free when it leaves water treatment plants here, but it becomes contaminated when it runs through lead service lines underground. And Chicago has more than 300,000 of them, more than any other city in America.
Chicago's Park Service has shut off or removed half of its 1,200 water fountains, and it is leaving hundreds of others on around the clock to minimize lead levels. But it is not replacing all of its lead service lines.
I think the cost is one part of it. I think there's also just the public image of having claimed for many years that the water is fine.
The city's Department of Water Management told Al Jazeera in a statement, year after year, Chicago's water exceeds the standards set by the U.S. EPA lead and copper rule for clean, safe drinking water. Additionally, the Chicago Department of Water Management takes a proactive approach to mitigating lead in the water system. Chicago is also offering free water testing kits, but Sam Corona is still waiting on his.
Water is basic, right? We need it to survive, and it has a contaminant in it. So how is the quality of our lives of our residents if they're drinking contaminated water?
Waiting and hoping he and his family have not been drinking poisoned water all these years. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Chicago.
Ain't that something? Ain't that something? So, if that be the case, maybe that answers for a lot of the chaos that goes on in Chicago. Because if that water is, right, contaminating the brain, right, they call it brain-damaging lead found in tap water in hundreds of homes. But they saying hundreds, but it's bigger than that. It's not about the homes. It's where the water is coming from, right? And so they're saying that the test results are showing high, percentages of lead, right? And then they said amid renewal national attention to the danger of lead poisoning, hundreds of Chicagoans have taken the city up on its offer of free testing kits to determine if they are drinking tap water contaminated with brain-damaging metal. Okay, so let's just say that. Let's just say that if they do determine that. But that's after the fact, right? Isn't that after the fact that, okay, people who reside in Chicago and living there all their life, they're just now testing? I remember I was going to do the story about maybe a couple months ago. They said that they were finding it in the school. And they were shutting down some of the schools. And when I heard that, I said, well, if it's in the school building where the children are drinking, well, what about in their homes? Now that it's getting so bad, they're now reporting. It says that the Tribune analysts of the results show lead was found in water drawn from nearly 70% of the 2,797 homes tested during the past 2 years. Tap water in every 3 out of every 10 homes sampled had lead concentration above 5 parts per billion, the maximum allowed in the bottled water by the United States Food and Drug Administration. So that means even buying the bottled water, like they said in Detroit, they stopped also with the bottled water there because it was still contaminated. So what's done happened, it seems, is, okay, let's say again, as I talked about Fukushima. Those who know about Fukushima. Now that's on the West Coast. Now Detroit and Lake Michigan is on the other side, right? So that means, if that be true, so I guess when you heard, like, I don't know if y'all heard about that, when President George Bush and them was buying up water, and then I think Nestle and them was saying that water is not really like, it's not something that everybody's in. It has a privy or a privilege to have clean drinking water, right? So I guess as time goes on, water is going to be like gold, right? Because if all the water is becoming contaminated, and if you ain't got clean, fresh drinking water, which means if you can't drink the water, then how do you bathe? Because again, your body and the skin, the biggest organ, and it's going to absorb. So look how, So they're not telling us, right? They got us all out here thinking everything good. Again, they tell you putting filters. But again, you don't know until people start showing the outcomes. It's kind of like that brother that did the Roundup, right? So just remember, people who were using that Roundup and stuff like that, and then using it, and then again you planting, and then your crops coming from that, you get sick. But see, that you may be an individual, or there's several. Again, because of the numbers are small, it's kind of like my channel. Okay, I don't get that many views because again, there's some restrictions and stuff that goes on. But until you come across it, and you know. But see, the same thing on that aspect. You don't know because those people be isolated. But now it's getting to the point that, it's being known. So if it's there, what other places is it going to be? You get what I'm saying? So water is going to be very scarce. And so maybe that is contributing factor in Chicago, where the young brothers are out here and people saying about how it's gun-ho city, right? Maybe it has something to do with some brain damage going on because of the long, let's say prolonged years of drinking contaminated lead water. Matter of fact, let's just look at it again, as I said last night about, again, the redlining. And then just look at those places that they were dwelt in. If the place you live was built before, I think it was either between 72 and 75, that was lead. Those places were filled with lead. So no one came. Matter of fact, there's a story about the projects that I was reading earlier today that, like in New York, I think that was one of the oldest projects in New York. And they come to find out, they're testing and they find out all that lead is up in there. So we've always been living under the conditions of places that, again, we got everybody's leftovers. Like, again, we say we lived in the ghettos, but the ghettos was somebody's before we got there, right? They call them the Jews, right? What they call them, the Glotenglassens or some shit like that, right? And so that's what we end up. We got behind them, but see, those places were already dilapidated and fucked up anyway. And we had been living there, raising children under there. But again, we mutated to be able to absorb some of the shit. But now that it's becoming saturated, you understand? We're going to see as time goes on, a lot of things are going to manifest, right? So let me see. I got some other stuff going on here, but I just wanted to bring that again. This might be, I think this might be another part of, no, this is something that came out in another city today. Now, we had what happened, we had 4 in Chicago, right? Here's another story that took place in another city, Chocolate City.
Medical examiner late Monday began the task of removing the victims.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
4 people, 2 men, 2 women, all shot execution style in the basement of a home police say was being renovated.
This is an absolutely evil thing to do. Can't get my mind around the fact that you have people walking around capable of such vicious acts.
Lucille Walker, a local committee woman, was stopped in her tracks upon hearing word of the quadruple homicide.
It was all my neighbors out here looking at me.
She and others talked about the relative safety in this section of Southwest Philadelphia.
I'm shocked. I've been living around here since I was 10 years old, and this has never happened.
The victims, all said to be under 40. The 2 men may be related. Police Commissioner Richard Ross said his officers were first called around noon on Monday to check up on the home because one of the victims had not been heard from.
The family member that initially called for a check on the well-being, he's the one that went to knock on the door, and the door was ajar, but he didn't think much of that.
The chief of the district attorney's homicide unit paced about Malcolm Street while waiting for a judge to sign a search warrant. The police commissioner sounding grim about what tragically played out here.
At the end of the day, it's all about nothing. I don't care what this ends up being about. It's about nothing in the grand scheme of things, and it doesn't have to be this way.
Okay, so that was a story that was done today also in Philadelphia. So we originally started off with Chicago 4 being dead. Now I go to Southwest Philadelphia. And they said that police, again, as you just seen the video, were investigating a gruesome discovery in Southwest Philadelphia where 4 people were found dead inside a home. Officers were called shortly after noon Monday to a home on the 5100 block of Malcolm Street after a relative requested a wellness check, right? As we kind of heard that in the video, right? So in the basement of the home, 4 people, 2 men and 2 women, believed to be in their 30s, were found with 1 gunshot wound to the head. That's some execution style shit, right? All 4 of these individuals were executed. There are no ifs and buts about it, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross said. Ross said the home appeared to be in the process of being renovated. In fact, Ross said that a neighbor heard bangs Sunday night, which he assumed had to do with some of the ongoing work at the house. There were no signs of a struggle, which leads investigation to believe the victims may have been led down to the basement. The house is not in a it was not in a disarray. It doesn't look like there was any struggle upstairs. It just looks like they were either taken down there or they were already down there for some reason, and then they were shot. It doesn't appear to be a struggle, Ross said. The neighbors is rapidly gentrifying, and the block is considered safe. This level of violence has stunned the neighbors and even the commissioner who went to see the crime scene for himself. So again, the crime in the areas where we live. Remember, we're talking about redlining on the other video, those who've seen yesterday's video. And because of the history of that and all the other parts of history, again, some people, again, if you have the ability to be able to suck up most of what's being, so-called educated to you, and you regurgitate it and get the better grades, they got a place for you. People who struggle, well, they have to find meager ways how to survive. And a lot of times we have people who do channels who kind of like they the forgotten people. And it's like, that's not my problem. You didn't make the best of your life. And some of that has its play in it, but then some of them is just, these are the conditions. Not everybody is going to be, school isn't for everybody. Let's not lie about that. You can have children. And you can have, let's say you can have 4 children. That don't mean all 4, even though you aspire them, right, to do the best they can, to try to obtain, to do some things, but that may not fruition, because again, sometimes some people just not studious. They've got some other talent or some other thing they could be doing. Now again, we don't want to be just doing shucking and jiving and dancing and playing sports. We want to do other things, but again, if that's what you can do, again, you try to push them or lead them in the right path to do something that they can, make something better of themselves, right? But it's not for everybody, so we'd be lying if we try to say that, right? So then again, some people are just good to be, you're going to have these type of jobs that are meager jobs. Somebody got to do it. Somebody is here to do those things, right? And so I'm just saying that those conditions breed where, again, no elbow room. So if, there was an old saying, was like, okay, it was like the king was in his palace and the word was coming that the people were grumbling because they wasn't getting money and they couldn't eat and all that stuff. So they was like, well, what should we do, king? So he said, see that bowl of pennies over there? Take that bowl of pennies and throw it out the window. So they take the pen, throw it out the window. They all scrambling to get the pennies. Now they forgot about what they was even arguing about. See, fighting over pennies. Right? And so something small and minute will make somebody do things that are unimaginable. Execution style for 4 people. What could these people have done deservingly if it had babies over pennies? You get what I'm saying? It might be over some pennies. And so we don't value each other's life because, again, everybody else seems not to value our lives. So then sometimes there's people out here who just don't give no fuck. You understand? They don't value themselves, so they definitely not going to value you, and hopefully in life you don't run across them type of people. But again, seem like these 4 did. And again, some people are mourning out here due to, again, the conditions that we live in. So this next story, again, when we're talking about what I just said on there, what is the common denominator that we're seeing in these situations here? In Chicago, what was the culprit? Philadelphia, what is the culprit? Well, let's see this next story and see if I'm on point.
A local Washington State police chief wants to make his community a sanctuary city, but not the way you think. He wants to do it for gun owners.
This coming after newly passed gun regulations in the state makes Washington's gun laws some of the strictest in the nation. Chief Loren Culp joins us now.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. I want to just first ask, what about this new law really offends you? You had said that it violates, in your opinion, the state constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and in enforcing it, if you were to, you would be violating the oath that you gave. So tell us what bothers you about this law.
That's correct. I cannot and will not enforce this law. It goes against the oath of my office. It's specifically the state constitution is even more explicit than the U.S. Constitution. The right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. And this initiative not only impairs, but almost completely eliminates 18 to 21-year-olds from exercising their constitutional rights.
So I assume you got the idea from a lot of liberal cities in this country that do not want to follow federal immigration laws. What would you say to critics who might now say, look, you can't do this. You can't actually ignore the local gun laws? How do you respond?
There's a constitutional duty to officials in office to follow the Constitution. I mean, the Constitution is the basis for the laws of our land.
60% of voters supported this law, though. So are you worried that people will say this is the will of the people and you are now violating that, and that you should enforce it? And then if there are going to be legal challenges, for example, by the NRA, and it unfolds and it's challenged, then you cannot enforce the law. But in the interim, that you kind of have to do what the voters have asked you to do? What's your response?
The vast majority of the counties in Washington state denied this bill, this law. There's only a handful of counties that passed it, and they're the high population counties like Seattle area and Spokane.
So, Chief, it seems to me, as I asked you about the immigration issue, a lot of people in this country are frustrated that there are mayors who just don't want to follow federal immigration law and, as you say, follow the Constitution and how all of this should work. Are you exposing hypocrisy by the left? What are people in your community actually telling you about doing this?
I have tremendous support in my community for doing this. And the Constitution gives Americans the right to keep and bear arms. It doesn't give illegal immigrants the right to come into this country.
It should be noted also that the NRA has already filed a lawsuit to block this initiative. So we'll see how that lands.
All right, Chief, appreciate. Yeah, final word.
Yes, this not only blocks 18 to 21-year-olds from buying a semi-automatic rifle, it creates felons out of otherwise law-abiding citizens. If someone breaks into your home and steals a gun and commits a crime with it, then you, as the homeowner, even though you weren't even home, could be charged with up to a felony.
All right. Police
It's
chief.
absolutely ridiculous.
A police chief standing up for the Constitution. Sounds like a good idea. Chief, we appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right.
All right. So we have a chief, right, for the Americans. Did you catch that? For the Americans. See, this is what black people who are into, politics, and you're trying to find the right candidate, and you try to find these type of people like this chief Loren Culp, right? CULP, right? And again, he's advocating, right, that against a law that has been passed, that he believes that law is not correct, right? He said he is just standing up for people's rights. Police chief in Tiny Republic says he won't enforce the new gun laws. So the law that has been passed, he believes is not just and not right due to the simple fact that constitutionally, Americans, in quote, right? Americans, in quote, have the right to protect themselves. And that, obviously there must be a fear with all this migrating into this country that some people feel like they need to be arming up, right? So it goes on, says that the police chiefs of the Republic, a tiny town in northeastern Washington, doesn't think much of the I-1639. The strict gun law states voters approve on November 6th, Loren Culp won't enforce it and wants the city council to pass an ordinance making Republic sanctuary cities against such laws. The old picturesque mining town of Republic in northeast Washington is 300 miles from Seattle and a long, long ways from how Seattle folks think about issues like guns. Loren Culp, the police chief, Republic, population of 1,100, recently got a big shout out from Ted Nugent, the cat scratch fever rocker who these days is also known for his gun rights and hard conservative views and calls himself the Motor City Madman. The reason for the shout-out was that Cope announced he wasn't going to enforce Initiative 1639, the strict gun law measure passed November 6. And on Facebook page, it was 3 to 2 million followers. Nugent wrote perhaps a bit hurriedly. He misspelled the word. Chief Lauren Cope is an American freedom warrior. God bless the freedom warriors. Initiative that goes on in effect January 1st is one of the toughest in the country, raising the legal age to buy a semi-automatic rifle to 21 from 18 and requiring enhanced background checks. Right, it says the initiative also includes a safe storage provision that is in some circumstances makes firearms owner criminally liable if someone not allowed to access a gun uses it in a crime. That provision won't apply if, say, a gun is stolen that was secured, such as in a safe, and the owner report the incident within 5 days. Not only is the chief, the entire Republic Police Force constant of Cope and the deputies not going to enforce the law, but on Monday night the City Council is going to take up for discussion an orders proposed by the chief. Now, isn't that something that the American, in quotes, here's the law, that obviously the people who went to the polls, now they only had this is a little Mayberry town. Anybody know what Mayberry, one stoplight town, right? 1,100 people. And you mean to tell me when they went in on November 6th and voted that they knew that ordinance was up, right, to be voted on, and you voted for it? Or was it a catch-22 taking this one that came with this? I mean, I do more research and find out about all that. But I'm just saying, according to the story. So here's the chief, one of the good old boys. He part of the families of the 1,100. He said, even though that's the law, I don't believe I'm going to enforce it because it's going against the Americans, quote, rights to bear arms and protect themselves, especially when we have this influx of migrants coming in to this country. So he's not going to enforce it. Isn't that something, black people? Don't we wish we had somebody who could just say, hey, fuck that law. We ain't gonna do that shit. That shit is against what we couldn't do that shit. Huh? But see, again, right? I ain't gonna get into all that because, again, you know what? Some people gonna be seeing, they think that, again, as I showed last night, young brother was out there campaigning. He was in Iowa, right? He was doing the right thing, trying to get a candidate so they can do some things, do something. But again, as I did into the redlining, right? Well, they did the redlining about the green section and the red section, and again, he thought he was able to just la-di-da his way in the green section. But he looked as strange, and it was a dangerous stranger in somebody's neighborhood, right? And see, they can enforce that. Right? He was a stranger, and police had to do his job. So again, the laws work for those who was established for. But if we try some shit like that, that ain't gonna work. Even if you seen a brother in a uniform as a cop, he couldn't be like, the best he could do is not write you a ticket, right? But if he's in a situation, and let's say you and your significant other, whether you male or female, got into some kind of disagreement at the house, it got a little loud. Didn't get physical, just got loud. Neighbors, they going there, okay. Maybe I do that frequently. Somebody call, police come, okay. So you get some brothers at the door. You don't get the white cats, you get the brothers. Now, they can assess the situation and be like, you know what? Let me talk with him, you talk with her. Come to a meeting of the mind, all right, it was just a disagreement. Okay, well, you want to leave tonight, or y'all going to, you sleep on the couch, or, however y'all going to do it. Okay, y'all give us y'all word on that, okay? Right? He has the discretion, whether he can say, well, we're going to take you, we're just going to take her word. Let's say she kind of enhanced the story, right? And they say, well, fuck it. I don't like your ass anyway. Come on, I'm going to take you in, right? He has a discretionary, it's under his discretion to be like whether he wants to do the shit or not. That's about the best a black officer can do. He can't tell the motherfucking white man and say, you know what? Fuck that law. We ain't following that goddamn shit. this shit is against the Constitution. No. That ain't how it works. You know it don't work like that, right? But see, old Chief Cope can pull that shit, right? But they say, well, we're gonna see later on if they're gonna work or not, right? And if it does go against his paperwork, guess what? That community will support him and fight against that shit. See, we don't have that. That shit is the figure of our imagination of some shit that we want to obtain one day. But again, as I keep telling you, the score is 242 to 53. Until you understand that, you can't pull those kind of moves like that. Okay? So let's see what else I got in the trick bag. Let me look at who out on here. See, I got some people in the house. I'd like to thank everybody who out here tonight to the good. Okay, CDG, hey sweetheart. Leonard D. Yuta, what's good, brother? And that's about all I see in here. I see some other people in here. So I got some other stuff I want to show everybody. This other one here. This is for my sisters. Let's again, as we talking about politics, right? And trying to put people in there that's going to represent you. Right now, this right here in Texas, this is a good thing. Not for the just simple fact that what I'm about to show you, it's just the simple fact that, you know, based on the climate and the situation, and again, how people are making money by incarcerating, as I said, the discretion that a police officer has when he's dealing with you, and that seems like that's the only way he can do that when you have them working in that capacity of a profession. Well, what about if you're in this profession and you get a chance to deal with it? What about this, y'all? Check this out. Check this out.
Here we are here in Texas, which is, you know, historically and politically a very conservative state. And we made it. We got elected. The people said it was time for a change. Going into this, it wasn't to make history, you know, and I don't think we realized the magnitude of what we were doing until we were, you know, it was after the primaries. And everybody had won their respective primaries, and we look around and we're saying, wait a minute, it's 19 of us, and we're African American, and I don't think this has happened anywhere.
I mean, we're different ranges of age, different experiences. I think that it brings so much more richness to the bench, to the justice system, than there have ever been before. And I don't know if people are afraid. Some people are afraid of the unknown, but they do know us. I tell people, look at me. You know, I'm you. I have the same compassion, the hurts, the experiences. We experience love the same. We experience the same emotions. Some of our life experiences are just a little bit different.
That was definitely an issue that was prevalent in our campaign is how these cases with the majority of minorities being treated in a way that's disproportionate to everybody else.
And I believe that we'll be able to look at people, instead of looking at them and seeing their skin color, we will be able to look at the people and see their hearts and see their minds and try to understand some of the things that cause people to make the decisions and the bad decisions, and give people resources that we think can help build them to make a better Americans. We don't want to put them in a place where they become worse than what we perceive them to be in the beginning. I think that's important.
If you believe that you are qualified, if you believe that you can do just as good of a job as your male counterpart, if you believe, as whatever your ethnicity or your race is, that you are qualified for a position that you believe wholeheartedly in, go for it. Anything is possible. And I think that that's the overall message that I think little girls around Houston, around Texas, around this country should have, is that they can be anything that they want to be. Just put your mind to it and work for it. That's the takeaway.
All right. Did y'all see that? It was a lovely, beautiful sight to see. 19 black women elected as judges in one Texas county, making history. You seen it here. If you didn't know, you just seen some history. Now again, I always try to keep you up on the most latest in news and keep you informative over here. I know I can't say about everybody else, but that's what I do, right? So let me give you the background to this. So 17, they say 17, but you said it was actually 19, right? So 17 black women made history Tuesday night in winning judicial seats in Harris County, Texas. Well, we better stop flooding our ass to Texas County, huh? We better get our ass over there, y'all. Right? The 17 Democratic candidates were elected under a campaign they called Black Girl Magic Texas, hoping to be the largest number of black women elected judges in Harris County. Harris County, which includes Houston, is the largest county in the state. Some of the women celebrated their success on social media. This election is still sinking in. LaShawn Williams, judge elected for one of the county civil court at law, wrote on Facebook, "I am speechless and overjoyed by all of your kind words and powerful actions to help us make a court system which ensures that everyone will be heard." Of the 17 history-making women, Shannon Baldwin will be the county's first openly LGBTQ African-American judge. Oh, no, he can't be perfect, right? After winning her race, according to Smart Magazine. Now, again, when I say that, that's not a slant. It's just we can't be perfect, right? Tuesday's midterm elections were a historic night for female candidates, more of whom will be serving Congress than ever before. Latasha Lewis Payne, judge elected for 55th Civil Judicial District, told a local Houston TV station that having a diverse bench would provide equal opportunity for justice regardless of who you are. I think that having an African American judge or having a female judge, those are the kind of things we bring to the bench, and we bring an understanding of a person who may come from that similar background, Payne said. As of Friday, CNN projected that at least 100 women would win U.S. House seats, with 35 women newly elected to the House and 65 female incumbents. CNN projected on Friday that 12 women would win Senate seats, with 2 newly elected women joining 10 female incumbents. CNN projected that 9 would win gubernatorial races, right? So, 17 sisters being elected to make some kind of changes. And again, we got Hang a Nigga, Texas, right? Hang a Nigga, Texas. And those people, when I was reading online to some of them, the white people, they just have a problem. They said, well, what? I thought it was about diversity. Today, let me tell you something. Today, diversity it's going to be a little exclusion of you because you've been holding the seat again. Let me tell you the score. The score is 242 to 53. So for 42 years of the existence of this country, prior to subtract the 53 or 52, I said, you're going to get about, what, 189, something like that? Let's see, 52, something like that, right? Say 189, 54, about that, right? So that means you're going to have periods of time where the diversity is not going to have you included because you've been reigning much longer than everybody else. And it's time for other people to get a little bit of justice. it's a little time for when you go in there that you might be a little bit apprehensive because you can't understand that you can't pay this time. I know we wishing and we hoping, y'all. We hoping that it is. But we understand, again, this game, right? We understand the game. But it's a good thing just as a story in itself, right? And if that's what people are trying to use, to utilize, to mobilize, to bring some unity in, to bring some healing or curing, we give, we put this like, we congratulate them, but again, we have to see now the work, right? Because again, it could be McDonald's, right? And you could be like yesterday, Dunkin' Donuts, you could be the franchisee, right? But then there's somebody you got to answer to, and if the game is they need this to do this, we'll see. As time go on, right now, lovely to see. We hoping for the best for them sisters, right? And you got it here tonight on the Mr. Blows Your Mind show. So we hope for the best for them sisters. Now, since I'm talking about sisters and on this, and this sister here, I want to show here, I put it like this. I'm still going to give her that. I know she's still growing. You know, she's still, based on her upbringing and coming up, you know what I'm saying? I'll talk about that afterwards. But again, she did some things too, again, showing, like they're saying, black girl magic, right? We talking about, let's say, yeah, some people talking about black excellence. Well, let me give you something. Let me show you something. Again, tonight I'm doing something a little different than I normally don't do, but I'm just doing some random good news that need to be seen.
All eyes are on Simone Biles on the final day of the Artistic Gymnastics World Championships. She had the chance to win 2 more titles, to take a gold medal tally to 5 in Doha.
Representing the United States of America, Simone Biles.
She looked shaky in the balance beam final. And while she didn't fall down, like she did in the all-around final, her score of 13.6 was far from her best. It opened the door for others to capitalize, and they did. First, Anne-Marie Padurariu bettered her score. But the Canadians' efforts would only get her silver. China's Lu Tingting putting in a stellar display to seal the gold. Biles would have to settle for bronze. The floor final was next, an opportunity for the American to sign off in style. And she didn't disappoint. Biles shrugged off competition from fellow American Morgan Hurd to seal gold in the event, just like she did at the Rio Olympics. It brought to an end a memorable championships in Qatar for the 21-year-old.
It's been really exciting to come to this country and have them so welcoming, and competing here has been a complete honor.
Simone Biles finishes the competition on a high, but her and the rest of the women are the only ones that are in action and after medals. 3 golds were on the line for the men on the final day. Si Guangri came out on top in the vault final, the North Korean following up his title at the Rio Olympics in the same event. Zhu Jingwan ensured China would end the championship on top of the men's medals table, the 20-year-old getting China's 3rd gold by winning the parallel bars final. But it wasn't to be a golden finish for one of the sport's legends. Kohei Uchimura, who was a doubt for Doha because of ankle problems, could only manage silver. The 3-time Olympic champion finishing behind Epke Zonderland of the Netherlands. The event finishing off a dramatic final day of competition. Sohail Malik, Al Jazeera, Doha.
So we see our little sister still out there doing what she do best. Winning them gold medals and representing. Now again, some people gonna have problems with her. You know what I'm saying? Because again, she's still growing up, and again, depending on who you up under, sometimes they don't interfere. Because again, I think her grandparents are the ones that end up raising her, right? It was the grandparents that raised her, so you know, because of that generational gap, you know, let's say they baby boomers, and then she's more of a millennial. And so millennials are out here, they kind of dibbing and dabbing, right, varieties, and, you know what I'm saying, they do all kinds of stuff, and so, you know, they don't want to rock the boat. So I kind of let her experience that maybe somewhere she gonna wake up. But that being, again, we can't be perfect. So we're just going to look at the fact that what she's done is she go out there, she's still doing black excellence, showing little sisters out here that, you know, you can aspire to do some of them God gift things that other people just don't have, and they're just in awe at your excellence and your grace and your skills and your gift, right? So again, tonight, Mr. Blow Your Mind is giving a little adulation to some of our sisters out here where a lot of these channels are beating you down. I got love for you. Always going to have love for you, right? I'm always going to find a place for you over here. But there's sometimes corrective criticism has to come, but then there's got to be times we got to show these kind of stories, right? So we want to give some adulations and congratulations on Simone Biles, right? Now, again, I want to look at this situation over here, right? Because this here is kind of like, what's going on over here, right? What's really going on over here? Because we're going to take this situation here. Now, I don't know what happened to that story I just had there. That's kind of funny. Okay, I know what happened to it. Let's do it this way. Okay, so that must have did here. So what I got here is, now, you know, as again, we was talking about those sisters that was in Texas and how that whole process got them into the position that they're in, right? They're now in positions that they can do something, and it was due through the political arena, right? So some people are looking at it and say, well, see, look, politics can work. Politics can work. Okay, I'll give you that one. But see, then there's a flip side to it. Now, what happens when somebody who is in it, but then they doing some fuck shit? They taking, you know, or they doing shit they ain't supposed to be doing, and then they get caught up, right? What you talking about, Mr. Blow Your Mind? What you talking about? Well, check this out. You know, I got to show you. I got to set you up to get you there. So let's check this out. Watch this, and I'll be back afterwards.
Thank you for taking this opportunity, Ms. Snipes.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I look forward to it.
All right. Let's start with the biggest question. Will you get your counting done on time? The Thursday deadline you have, the Friday deadline with military and out-of-country ballots after it. Will you be ready on Thursday?
Absolutely. My team and I are working very hard, very diligently to make sure that that happens.
So you're saying 100% you'll have the count done to everybody's satisfaction?
I'm saying 100%. We
All right.
have a staff that's highly trained, they're capable, they're competent, and we've set the goal of making sure that all of our information is in according to the schedule.
You have been cited, Ms. Snipes, as a problem in this process, that you're not doing the job with transparency and you're not doing it with the efficiency that gives confidence in the overall process. How do you respond?
Well, you know, those are opinions that people have put forward for their own various reasons. But I'd like to call to your attention that this midterm election, in addition to running very smoothly, was one of the most highly participated midterm elections probably that we've had in 20 years or more. Over 700,000 folks decided that they wanted to have a voice in this election. They came forward, they voted. We are counting their votes now in a recount procedure, but they said, I don't want to be left out. I want to be an important contributing citizen of this process, and they came forward, and we appreciate that.
All right, but you have rules that you're supposed to abide by, and transparency. That is very important. You refused to give the Scott campaign the information they wanted. It had to go to court. The judge said you had to turn it over. You didn't turn it over by the deadline that was given. That is cast as a partisan spat, that you're doing that because you're a Democrat. How do you respond to that?
Well, I was talking with a woman today as she came into our office, and she made some statement about a partisan statement, and she said, I know that you're a Republican. I said I have been a Democrat all my life. In this position, I have been very focused on party because I want to treat all of the voters in Broward County the same. And I think if you'd ask the voters, you'd find that I have that reputation. I don't have a reason to hold anything back, except that I don't want to give out information that's incomplete or incorrect at that particular time. So concerns or allegations that we are not transparent. There's one comment that my staff, and we work very closely together, always bring to my attention is that Dr. Snipes, you'll just take time to walk anybody through our election warehouse. I think that's very important because that gives those persons who take the time to come to us to see our operation a chance to see behind the scenes. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make an election possible, to make it efficient, and to make it something that voters want to participate in. And obviously we're doing that if over 700,000 participated in the midterm.
Well, if it were that obvious, Rick Scott wouldn't have had to go to court, though, with all due respect, Doctor, right? I mean, he had to go to court to get this tour that you're saying you give to everybody for no reason. You wouldn't give it to him or his people. He had to go to court to get it. Fair criticism?
No, it's not. No, it's not. We don't select who we give out information to. We give information to those persons who have requested it. And I believe the public records request says in a timely manner. And we attempt to do that, and we try to balance everything. We're finishing up one of the biggest elections, as I mentioned earlier, for the midterm. So we're trying to get everything complete. And as far as I know, we had a team working on that. Right. And I'm pretty sure that they got the information out.
Now, after that, the central criticism comes to whether or not all the ballots that are supposed to be counted are, and whether or not ballots that should not be counted are being counted. Your critics point to 22 rejected provisional ballots that were put in with a batch of 200 valid ones. And they say, you see, this is what happened back in 2016. They make mistakes in there, and it can change an election.
As I said before, an election is a huge operation. There are many moving parts, but we pay attention to each one of them. There are folks who have specialties in all kinds of functions of the election process. And there were 25 ballots in question, not 21. And those 25 ballots had not been counted as of today. But now those ballots, as I understand it, came from valid Broward voters. And I believe every voter should be given a fair opportunity to have their ballot cast. But we don't want that ballot to be cast illegally. If the ballot doesn't meet the standard, that's one thing. But if, if the ballots have been determined to come from actual registered voters who met all the criteria of being a registered voter and operated as a registered voter, those votes should be counted. But that's not just my decision. Decisions like that are taken before the canvassing board, and we sit as a team. There are 3 of us, 2 county judges and myself, supervisor of elections. So if a ballot is in question, before that ballot is open, it comes to the canvassing board so that the canvassing board can review the circumstances. Right. And the canvassing board makes a determination as to whether those ballots should be counted.
Is it not the case that whether the number is 22 or 25, whatever the number is, that those rejected provisional ballots that were put with 200 valid ones, is it not the case that those 22 or 25 ballots were then removed again because they were not supposed to be counted with the other ones?
They were never counted. Those ballots had been separated. They've been isolated. They have not been counted to date.
Okay. One other question. There's going to be a lot of talk about how well you do your job. And you've talked about it. You've said, I'm going to stay here for the pendency of my term, or maybe I'll step down. We'll see what happens with the politics of it. But when it comes right down, are you more concerned about whether or not the count or the ballot itself is going to wind up being the story when it comes to the Senate race? Because the ballot in your county put the Senate race in the bottom left-hand corner. And it could be that one of the reasons you have all these undervotes in your county is because people didn't see the race because of the way the ballot was constructed.
You know, our ballots are constructed by a state-approved ballot code. And when we put our ballot together, that's exactly what we utilize. And we also have representatives sitting alongside us to assist with the coding of the ballot to make recommendations for the ballot. We have a huge ballot. Our ballots were either 6 pages, 5 or 6 pages in length. And you have to be concerned about how it's going to appear to the voter, how it's going to be structured, and whether or not the voter is going to read everything that's important to making a selection. So I don't think there was anything wrong with the design of our ballot. We did create it according to the state's uniform ballot code, and that's a part of the uniformity process in our elections here in Florida.
Well, we'll see how that goes, because undervotes are going to be an issue in that race. And obviously, as you know, it's not news to you that people are talking about how the ballot is constructed. Just to get you on the record with this while I have you, Dr. Snipes, and I'll let you go back to your work, which is clearly more important than media interviews. But if the pressure stays on you after this race, are you really thinking about resigning after the recount is over?
As I told one of the reporters today, I'm thinking about many things. I've not made any decisions. Whatever I do, I will contemplate it very carefully and make what I think is the correct decision for me.
All right. Brenda Snipes, I know these aren't comfortable questions for you, but the process matters so much. Confidence in it matters so much that we wanted the opportunity to let you answer for yourself and let people know what's going on. So thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, I had 2 other videos I was supposed to play behind that, but it seemed like that got caught. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go into the fact that that is who you just seen was Brenda Snipes, right? She was the supervisor of elections of the Broward County. And what you've seen in that, what she elaborated was about, again, she seems to be like she's going to be the face of whatever that went wrong in the, counting, tallying of those votes, right? And so the story goes that Brenda Snipes has submitted her resignation as a supervisor of election for Broward County, Florida, after the completion of a recount that brought renewed scrutiny on her tenure. Although, this is what she says, although I have enjoyed this work tremendously over these many election cycles, both large and small, I am ready to pass the torch. Snipes wrote Sunday in her resignation letter to Governor Rick Scott, which was obtained by CNN. She requested in the letter that her resignation be effective January 4th, 2019. The Centennial first reported news of Snipes' resignation. Snipes, a Democrat, was the subject of widespread condemnation from Republicans during the Florida-wide statewide recount. Republicans used Snipes, who oversaw at times hapless vote counting efforts in Broward County, as a foil during the recount, seizing on mistakes made in her office to suggest that fraud was being committed, although no evidence of fraud was ever produced. Snipes dismissed the criticism as political motivated and expressed her frustration during the recount. She says, I can't wait for this to be over, she told CNN last week. Florida recount ended on Sunday when all of the state's 67 counties, including Broward, submitted their final vote total to the Secretary of State. During the recount, Snipes publicly toyed with the idea of stepping down. It's time to move on, to let someone else do the job, Snipes said when the reporter asked whether she would resign. The election official backed off slightly. Well, I haven't finalized that. I just checked with my family and they'll tell me what I'm doing, she said. It now appears that Snipes has finalized her decision. One reason the accusation of Republicans stuck is because Snipes has a history of legal issues during her time as head of elections of the county. And it goes on a little bit more. But again, looks like they want to get her out of there. I'm not saying whether, she was lacking her duties. that she participated in maybe undermining. Again, they said they didn't find any evidence to prove that, but again, it was always insinuated. And matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I did see President Donald Trump mention that even in the beginning when them elections was even taking place, that he said it was going to be a problem in Broward County. And I was like, well, how could he say that before they even got to that point, right? So obviously, you know, when we are in certain positions that can make real changing effects, I don't think certain people want our ass in those positions. Now, I'm not saying, again, it's neither here to say whether she was doing her job or she wasn't doing her job, but I'm just looking at the fact that she became this poster. If it would have turned and say that Rick Scott didn't win, right? It would just go and use that. So there was already a chess move in, you know, in the game, is that was going to be a pawn to be, you know, utilized at the appropriate time. So she said she done had enough. She done stepped down. Again, that's what happened. When you play that game, you got to expect that, right? You can't think that you can keep playing that game with them and thinking that eventually they ain't going to come and, you know, cut you if it could be in against them, right? So anyway, I seen this other story. It's wild as shit. Don't make no sense, but you know, who am I? I ain't to judge nobody, but let me let you see what it is, and then we'll come back.
Horrifying crime. Right now, the search is on for this suspected child rapist. He was just added to the TBI's top 10 most wanted list. Simon Porter is accused of attacking a 16-month-old boy in Lawrenceburg. He could be driving a green S10 pickup with a red tailgate and Tennessee tags. If you see him, call police.
Bill, well, it's not over yet because Fox News has just obtained the resignation letter from the election supervisor in Broward.
Oh, now that want to play. Didn't want to play before. Ain't that something? Funny stuff, right? So anyway, that was done prior to me getting set up for the show tonight. Again, you know, there's so many variations to the depthness of the sickness in this country that, you know, sexual deviation, right? I'm trying to, I guess I can never get myself in the mindset. You know how, like, sometimes you watch a lot of these police shows and detective shows, and they say, in order for you to solve the crime, you got to get in the mind of the, right? I couldn't fathom that. I can't see me wanting to look at a 16-month-old. Barely over a year old. What could you see? You know what I'm saying? Oh, don't get me wrong. I put it like this. As a man, right? And you may be a female. There's urges, right? You have urges, right? And then again, depending on the, you know, let's say the maturity of the individual, you know how to deal with it, suppress it, or handle it, right? You know? And so, how do you get in that? Where does your mind go when you look at a 16? I mean, right? I mean, I know, y'all. I know. Huh? That's unfathomable, right? To a person who we would believe that most of us have a sane mind, we're stable. Again, by us being in this land, we're gonna have some, let's say, what they say, dysfunctions, right? Maybe it's not as bad, maybe a little bit more controllable than others. You know, some things, again, we're not perfect. We know we're not perfect, but 16-month-old, and it was a boy. Now, I ain't condoning, but again, it's just all the way just something wrong. So if you just happen to see that motherfucker, you don't need to call the police. No, the police ain't good enough for him. The police ain't good enough for that. But I can't tell you what to do, but you know what I'm saying. So what else I got in here, right? What else I got in here? Let's see. Well, let's about this one here. Okay, let's do this here. Because, you know, that's how we got to look at it, right? Let's say, for instance, again, you know, they say this is the rat race, right? This is a rat race, right? And so, you know, when we look at this race game, so we got a black rat, white rat, brown rat, right? Yellow rat, right? We got different kind of rats, right? Right? We say the rat race is life, right? This game that we all in, right? Now, but this particular kind of rat, we ain't gonna say rat, we're gonna say mouse, right? The life of a mouse, and especially when it comes to advancement in science, right? I'll show you this here, and then I'm gonna connect that dot after I show you this. But this came out today. Would you check it out, and I'll be right back. All right, again.
We have fish, we have frogs, bats.
Hold on, see, that's what I'm talking about. See, you don't want to do what you're told to do. Do what you're supposed to do. You ain't supposed to be doing it. You're supposed to do what I told you to do. All right, let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, come on, let's get it.
We have fish, we have frogs, bats, owls, rabbits, multiple species of monkeys, pigs, dogs, cats. No sheep right now.
When it comes to development of medicines in the United States and around the world, why is this center and other centers like this important to that process?
Well, in the United States, most biomedical research is done at institutions like this. Pharmaceutical companies, you know, they talk about how many billions of dollars it costs to produce a drug, to develop a drug. So they're not, while they do basic research, a lot of the basic research is done here. And then if it looks like it's going to work out, then it'll go up to the higher level to a pharmaceutical company.
So this is really, I mean, it's a prison, but in some ways this is a laboratory.
This county prison became an adjunct of the University of Pennsylvania's medical school. You had 2-3 dozen different experiments for different private and public sector operations, including the U.S. Army. By 1974, news about the experiments here becomes so negative, so problematic, that the city leaders shut it down. That was replicated at similar facilities around the country.
You got my phone?
Are you a career lab rat?
Absolutely. This is my main gig. So far this year, I've made $21,000.
I've done 30 plus studies. I mean, I used to not even look at studies below $4,000.
Wow, okay.
Some drugs are more profitable than others.
So this is basically what the job is. You come in here, you dose, they come and take your readings. Every few hours, their vitals are taken, their blood's taken, they have timed meals, and they just observe what's going on in your body after you take the medicine.
Once a drug is marketed, that's when the drug is going to go from this really small population of people it's being tested on for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, to many millions of people who may have to take that drug for the rest of their lives.
So all the first users are actually the real guinea pigs.
That's how I feel about it. The real clinical trial begins once it's marketed to the general population.
All right. So maybe some people didn't know about that, right? Didn't know that your ass can actually be a professional lab rat. A professional one. No, not just anyone. You be a professional one, right? Now, that's somebody who out here who wants to participate and do that, right? Let's say those people again, like, you know, some people when they in college and they hard up for money, they'll go get some blood, right? They'll go get some blood, get $30, $40 for, You know, get some blood, do that every day, especially those who got habits and stuff, they might do that, right? So, again, you know, the animals, okay, you sacrifice, you allow them. But again, see, who's really doing this? Pharmaceutical companies is doing this, right? Because they need to figure out how it works. Okay, if you do it on a rat, I never understood that shit. If you do it with mice and rats, how that it's equivalent to humans. I guess there's somewhere, you know, somebody got rat and mouse in their ass, right? So, but the underline of that story was they go to the prisons. Now, I read a book, maybe those who might be interested, there's a book called Acres of Skin. Acres of Skin. And in that book, it talks about how prisoners who, when you don't have family, you don't have money, you don't commissary books like that. So what they do is they will ask to be participants in, again, tests, you know, for these products, right? To make some money, right? And so as you see in that little dissertation of that story, it talked about in Philadelphia and about the prisons coming to them. And one thing also is the fact that once you become locked up like that, you don't have no rights anyway. So that's voluntarily, right? That's voluntarily. You ever seen this movie? I can't remember the title of the movie. You ever seen this movie? It had Forrest Whitaker in it, and it had the dude that Duvall. He looked like I think he played Jesus one time. He was in it, and what it was about this. They were like reenacting. One was security guard, and the other one was kind of like, you know, prisoners and so forth. Or matter of fact, that may not even the right movie, but yeah, I think that's it. So they go in there, and what ended up happening is the shit becomes real, right? They were taking this shit, they end up being placebos, and they think the shit is real, and all this other bullshit, and so they end up, right, acting out and doing all kinds of crazy shit, right? Just on the whims of thinking that shit was real. Now, here's prisoners that go and they take these tests and they don't even know what's going to be the outcome of it. Some of that shit they be faking them and thinking they give them placebos, which is just nothing, right? It's a pill, so psychologically you make your ass thinking of shit. Or they doing real testing on shit. But again, that's somebody volunteering. And what they did in that movie is they would sit back based on this reenactment and observe them, and they end up was killing them damn self, right? So let's say that in a prison that nobody's volunteering, but they put shit in the food, they got shit in the water, they got shit in the commissary with your candy bars and, you know, oodles and noodles and all that shit. And then they know when there be riots and shit going up, you think it's because two people got into it, but there's some chemical imbalance. Because see, if you ever worked in a place like those people who take care of people who are, let's say, not fully mentally capacity, let's say had a full capacity of mind, right, would be disabled mentally, right? If you ever worked in that kind of environment, what end up happening sometimes is the medication that you give them, sometimes they give them either too strong a dose, not enough of the dose, somebody administers somebody else's shit wrong, and then what ends up happening is the whole house will go up, right? They all acting crazy and doing all kind of shit because they become chemically imbalanced. Because again, let's say somebody who's been taking that shit for years and years and years and years and years, and then you give them something different. So I'm saying that maybe that when they, again, because again, who they ushering more into these prison systems? It's us, right? Who are the first guinea pigs and lab brats when you come to this MDA, this medical association? It goes back to our ancestors, right? Remember the book I told you about, Harriet Washington? What's the name of the book? I know that's the author's name, Harriet Washington. Man, what is? I see the book is red with a cross in it. Somebody know it, they can put it out there. Now I'll talk about it later, but it'll come to me. But that book particularly too is again about how women and vasectomies and how they was doing it to our ancestors with no anesthesia, right? Doing that shit, huh? So how many people died based on that shit, right? So lab rats, we become the lab rats. We've been it because, again, just think about the areas that we live in. Let's say those so-called confined urban ghettos. So we didn't own the corner stores. We didn't own the liquor stores. And so, again, you know, this shit comes in on a truck from some destination, from some place you know nothing about. You don't know who filled it and what's in it, but you know it's got a label that you trust that that's what you want. You ever buy them hot-ass chips? Anybody been eating some of that shit lately? I know we loaded now. You don't eat that shit. But you eat some of that shit. That shit is so extremely hot today. That red. Matter of fact, if we go back, I remember when they took that number 7 red off because they said that shit was giving cancer. But boy, they eating that shit. That shit is all on your fucking fingers and shit, right? Maybe somebody lab rapping our motherfucking people. Maybe they lab rapping them up in Chicago. Oh, this shit is, maybe that's it. We find out the water's lead. Right? We don't know. They talking about the chemtrails that fly over there. Can't you be releasing shit in the air that falls down on you when you getting crazy and want to fight and kill? You don't know all of a sudden you always right. You're smoking weed. I done talked about smoking the motherfucking weed and shit and chemicals in the fucking weed, and your shit is so goddamn strong, smell like cat pee. I could be on the 3rd floor, you in the basement, I'm getting high like you getting high and I ain't smoking. That kind of shit, right? Oh yeah, I know you don't want to hear that shit. No, you don't want to hear that. So if you say, well, Mr. Blows Your Mind, yeah, I think you're exaggerating a little bit. Come on, no one would do that. What? I mean, they love us. Why would they do some shit like that? Why? Well, let's put it to you like this. Let me show you this then. Let me show you this. Then you tell me. You show me. Oh, yeah, come on. I know. Y'all gonna. Yeah. No, I know. They're gonna make it hard for me to do it again. I'm getting to that point of the part of the show. I know. But check this one out. See if I can get it off from over here. Let's see. Come on. 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
The Democratic Republic of Congo. But this one is also the worst, and the world's first in a conflict zone. Since 2014, about 2,000 people have been killed in northeastern DRC in fighting between armed groups. And now, since August, a record more than 200 people there have died from Ebola.
The Ebola epidemic in North Kivu and Ituri provinces surpassed that of the first epidemic in DRC's history, which occurred in 1976 in Yambuku, in the province of Equateur.
The health ministry says medical teams in the area are attacked an average 3 to 4 times a week, an unprecedented level of violence compared with previous outbreaks. 2 medical agents with the Congolese army were shot dead 3 weeks ago. 15 people were killed and a dozen children abducted in subsequent attacks around the town of Beni. The World Health Organization says it's become the outbreak's epicenter because of what it calls a toxic mix of violence and community mistrust.
The outbreak is not under control, and it's been a large number of patients in the town of Beni, and now we are very concerned about another town, Butembo, where you have 1 million people. And cases from Beni travel to the area of Butembo, and we're now worried that transmission will occur in that town.
This, he says, is a window of opportunity. A vaccination program has already reached some 25,000 people. Neighboring Uganda has become the first in the world to administer a vaccine without an active outbreak, targeting frontline health workers near the border.
They're really trying their hardest to vaccinate as many people as possible who have potential exposures to Ebola virus, because the vaccine really seems to work. The problem is it's challenging to access people because of the instability in the area. And it's hard to ensure that people who have had a possible exposure to Ebola virus actually have access to the vaccine, purely for safety reasons.
And borders here are porous. These roads, like this one in South Sudan, lead across sovereign frontiers. And as people travel, they give Ebola the ability to travel with them.
Tracing them
becomes something difficult. But good enough up to now, we don't have any case of Ebola within Yei River State. But if at all there is any case that enters, it will be very challenging tracing those people who comes through the porous borders.
As the death toll mounts in the DRC, neighbouring countries are watching closely. Nastasia Tay, Al Jazeera.
Bill, well, it's not over yet because Fox News has just obtained.
Okay. So we went from the lab rat, where you can have a professional lab rat who volunteers that will do it for a fee and take all the risk. Then you have those that are incarcerated who could be doing it voluntarily, or who could be administered and don't know it's being administered. So I took you over to the continent. Wait, Mr. Bloody, are you trying to say that they did that? Wait a minute. Let me show you something. Let me tell you something first. Who remembers in about 2014? Remember that big story? Remember that story about that white doctor and that white nurse that caught Ebola in Africa? They flew them back to Atlanta. Do everybody remember that? And then he became Man of the Year and all that. Well, let me refresh your memory. An American doctor stricken by Ebola in West Africa arrived home for treatment in Atlanta on Saturday. U.S. government officials are urging the public to remain confident in the healthcare system ability to keep the deadly disease isolated. A charity organization, the Samaritan Purse, said 2 Americans in serious conditions. Hold on, where the rest of the story go now? Okay, they don't give me the rest of the story. Let me go back down here a little bit. Let me get the rest of it. They want me to pay for that, huh? Because I remember shit like that. So he gonna make me pay for the story. No. So anyway, well, I don't read because I had to get another one. I got it. But anyway, so what ended up happening was, you remember that doctor, they had contracted Ebola because they was over there helping other people. And it's kind of like that movie Outbreak. Remember the movie Outbreak? I talked about that before, right? With Dustin Hoffman. Remember his woman got it? And came to Morgan Freeman. And Morgan Freeman went in the closet and gave him the vial, and he ended up getting back, and it saved her life. Well, that's what happened in real life. Remember what happened here when he went back to the CDC, and all of a sudden, miraculously, he was healed. But they never had a motherfucking cure. At least that's what they said, right? And if you listen to that video where the white man made it saying, well, it's kind of like it's working. What you mean it's kind of working? You know it works. Are you giving them the right shit? Huh? You giving them the other shit, right? You giving them the other shit. You're not giving them that shit. You giving them the other shit, right? And so, see, they dying. Rats being administered again because that medical association used the data to be able to determine how this shit works. I read these books back in a while called, what's the name of them books? Damn, I can't think of the name of it. But it was about how what they did is, let's say in Florida, right? They would infect mosquitoes, let the mosquitoes out, and the hospital, when they get the flood of the people coming in, that's how they got the report of what they put in the mosquitoes and the outcome of whatever they already did in the lab to figure out what it is and what the outcome. Because remember, the pharmaceutical company do the same thing to figure out how this shit works. So is it a biological weapon that they might be using? I'm just throwing some hypotheticals out there, y'all. I don't really know. I'm just telling for what I think it is, right? I just see what it is, and I just say, is that what that is? Maybe it's not. But I know you got a cure because I know there's a patent for this shit, just like there's a patent for AIDS, right? Go back to some of my old videos. Well, I did a game show. I did it like a game show. It was like a question. I did it it's called Negro D. Not Jeopardy. It was called Negro D. And I did this game show and questions and that came up and you will get what the patent is. Oh, they made sure that one didn't get out. Oh, yeah, that one didn't get out. That one got a lot of those old ones don't have a lot of numbers either. When I first got on, I got that breakthrough and then they was like, put the cat back on that motherfucker right there. Put that cat back on his ass. So anyway, so we got people on the continent catching this virus that we know they got a cure for, but I don't think they trying to cure them. Everybody vibing for the piece of land that we claim ancestral, that we originated from. So I mean, where else you gonna put them? Because I seen a story the other day where China is so ghost town, but they can build skyscrapers in 7 days, and they building them like they going out of style, but they ain't got nobody to put them in there. I wonder who's gonna be in there. I wonder who's gonna get in those places. If they all migrating, trying to get their ass up on the continent, then I wonder who's gonna be living over there. Just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. So, what else I got? I got a couple more on here. Matter of fact, I got to give you some more on the continent. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always some stuff going on over there. Check this one out and I'll be right back. Let's see, I don't know this.
In the jungle, on the grounds of the abandoned palace of Africa's...
Hold on. Come on, we'll get it right now. I don't know what I'm saying. Trying to get closer to the end and want to act like it don't want to work all of a sudden. Right? It's always doing that, but we're going to wait. We're going to get it right. Let's get it.
Deep in the jungle, on the grounds of the abandoned palace of Africa's last emperor, Jean-Bedel Bokassa, a Russian operation is underway. Masked Russian fighters. Some were in Ukraine, others in Syria or Chechnya. Now they're in the Central African Republic, training an army that has lost control of the country. They call this the Storm Danya exercise. Vladimir, not his real name, says discipline is one of the problems. Sectarian violence fueled by militia groups has divided Muslims and Christians. The Russians are training men who once fought each other to unite for a government too weak to secure its own borders. Sanctioned by a UN arms embargo, the army is ill-equipped. At the request of President Ouattara, the Security Council approved imports of Russian weapons last December. Now they're providing both arms and training. Launching an ambush on a building. They call this the Stormsdanya exercise. In a few short weeks, they'll do this with live ammunition to put the soldiers under stress.
Now, they go through scenarios like this on a daily basis, trying to prepare these soldiers to deal with real-life events so that the government here can regain control of the country.
Here to help is Valery Zakharov, the new special advisor to the president, dispatched by Moscow. While the UN-backed African Union initiative has stalled, Russia, together with Sudan, is trying to broker a peace deal between the 14 active militia groups.
The aim here is to avoid a bloodshed, so I've travelled the country and met with various rebel leaders to get them around the table.
In July, 3 Russian journalists were killed in Kar. They claimed these Russian instructors are in fact mercenaries working for a private security company called Wagner, which has close ties to the Kremlin. Zakharov denies these claims.
What Wagner? This is just an urban legend. These are Russian reservists, nothing more.
Whatever they are, 27 years after the fall of the Soviet Union, the Russians are stepping back in the heart of Africa, at a time when the West, and notably France, the former colonial power, is retreating. With more weapons and instructors on the way, this may be just the beginning. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Baringo, the Central African Republic.
It's not over yet because Fox News has just obtained the resignation letter from the election super...
Why do you keep doing that? It only makes sense. Why keep doing that? Anyway, so I don't know if you're going to get in this in the black corner. I don't know if anybody else got the heart to do it, to talk about it. They want to act like it don't exist. But you just seen some with your own eyes, right? Now, Russia's up in Africa, too. Always getting hot on the continent. Huh? And look who they using to gonna do the dirty work. Huh? Oh, Ebola over here, soldiers over here. You understand? They building all this, huh? Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Just have to tell it like a TI is. Battle for Africa, Russia pushes into free countries for the taking in attempt to rival the West. I'm going to read that again. This is in Newsweek. Battle for Africa, Russia pushes into free country for the taking in attempt to rival the West. Okay, let me give you a little reading on what this says here. It says there are new guests at the ruined palace where Emperor Jean-Bedel Bokassa once held court during his rule over the Central African Republic in the 1970s. Bokassa used a year's worth of development aid to stage an extravagant coronation, and he personally oversaw the torture of prisoners. He fed some of his pet crocodiles and lions. But the French government that helped install Bokassa in 1966 ousted him in 1979, deploying paratroopers to prevent any counter-coup. Now, 4 decades later, it is Russia's soldiers who mill around this crumbling estate in Baringo, and the shifting power dynamic is raising concerns in the West. President Vladimir Putin is pushing into Africa, forging new partnerships and rekindling Cold War-era alliances. There will be a battle for Africa, says Imbinji Korendovasov, head of Russian African Studies at the Russian Academy of Science, and it will grow. Russia's economy is on long-term decline, and it is in reach has diminished since the Soviet era, so the Kremlin is using diplomatic, economics, and military tools to prospect for political influence and new markets in Africa, signing multi-billion-dollar arms deals, bidding for big construction projects, boosting space communications, exploiting hydrocarbon reserves, and launching publicized military intervention along more clandestine operations. The Russians want to implant themselves in the Central African Republic so that they have an axis of influence through Sudan in the north and the southward into Angola, says a senior United Nations security official in Bangui, Car's capital, who requested anonymity, and he wasn't authorized to speak with the media. The French are hated as the old colonial power. American troops have left. It's a free country for the taking. All right. So, it says the United States left. Okay. Right. I guess that whole thing, remember I did, those who watched the show, remember come back about a week or so ago when I talked about 400 years coming up next year, and that somehow when Kenya, it was Ghana who got a deal with the United States about trying to bring about 50 million of the United States over to there. And some people buying that shit. I'm telling y'all, man, I'm telling you. I'm okay. When I keep coming on, I'm going to keep showing y'all, man. I'm just going to keep showing. Don't take my word for it. I'm just going to show it to you. Right? So somebody got some big, grandiose plans. It got us involved in it some form or fashion. And you got a lot of our people talking about going back to the continent because they say, hey, we want you to come over here and help us. Help you to do what? Now, somebody's all whistleblower, man. Are you down in Africa? Wait a minute. I'm 400 years over here right now. I'm closing on 400 years over here. I ain't got no dissent or anger or nothing. No. You got problems. You know, I got problems here too. You know what I'm saying? And everybody want to pick up and try to go somewhere, and it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Do you understand what's going on over there? You might as well just be Haiti. You might as well just go ahead and do, again, you're going to have to do what Haiti did. Because they got all them over there. All them lined up over there. They did say they recarving it up. I mean, I told y'all the other night about 1885 when they first originally did it. But they couldn't do it then. They ain't had the technology and the weapon now. Now they got all kind of shit, right? Again, we just showed you Ebola, right? They got other shit going on. You got the Chinese over there buying up everything, and they over there taking the money. You know, they can't pay the shit back. Economic Hitman, for those who don't know, read that book, right? And matter of fact, go back to that book, what they call the geopolitical chessboard, the grand chessboard, right? That shit too is happening. All that shit is happening, right? And he over here talking about what we talking about. Okay. So, let me move on. I ain't going to stay too long on that. Not going to stay too long. Matter of fact, what we had, let me look out here and see who out here. Oh, okay, we got people still out here. Who in here talking to CDG, the only girl I got out here for me. Okay, yeah. They always put a black face on anything negative. Wow, pro-lab rats. Yes, they always study us because we are original humans with longest and strongest gene pool. Yeah, they always put ghettos next to the industrial waste plants. Radical Sister says they sending radioactive Fukushima milk to the black hoods. Them vaccines killing them, and they trying to depopulate Africa and the Chinese. And you're right. Everything you said, I give you an A+ CDG. Right? I done seen you talking over there on Radical Side. One time I was watching, I seen you up there talking. I said, hey, that's CDG over there. So, you're right, sister. Everything you just said is on point. And the thing is, Fukushima is a problem. Right? Because you can't get, that water can't be, polluted like that. And felt as if it's just going to dissipate and disappear and don't go nowhere. It's just going to keep traveling, but as long as they don't talk about it. Fella Coochie 360, what's good, sir? And, it's not going to go nowhere. So it's going to keep spreading in the water sources, and it's just going to keep going until it's just filter everything. And again, that Radical Goddess sister talked about, again, Africa being in its location is kind of protected so that water is not getting in there. So I guess everybody is vibing on there, and then they're going to let everybody else be, you know what I'm saying? We're going to be on some damn, that shit used to come on TV, whether that's a Survivor and shit, motherfuckers wild and shit and trying to do all. Is that what they doing? Is that what they going to flood all this shit up and then get the hell out of here and then motherfuckers just vibing like some... we don't want to see that shit. We don't want to see that. We definitely want to see that. And you say depopulate Africa. Yeah. Yeah. That's been going on for a long time. Again, I just don't understand some of the deals. Well, I'm going to put it like this. I do understand the deals that were done. Again, remember I was showing about how, remember it was the $160 billion that they gave? Then they gave like 40 billion before then. Well, they pretty much bought it. So if you buy something, let's say for instance, you buy a complex, a building that got, let's say, got 30 units in it, right? You got plans for that 30 unit, but you got all these tenants in there that they ain't really what you want, but you're going to take that money for right now. But you got a plan on how to get rid of them, right? So, either, what they do is they start raising the rent, or they're going to do some renovations, you know what I'm saying? Well, whatever they do, you become slumlord, whatever they do to get motherfuckers up out of there, right? You want to do it in a way so they don't have to cost you money or whatever. People do, based on how we've been living, we wouldn't do all that bullshit. So let's just say they gave $200 billion. You got all these people, but you ain't got plans for them again, like watching Star Trek and shit. You only got one LeVar Burton on a motherfucking spaceship. You don't need no other ones. You got a Hulk, right? You got a Hulk, you got a LeVar Burton. You don't need the rest of them, right? So what you gonna do with them? I got to do something with them. Now, you know, they always want to play the humanity and, you know, they philanthropists, all that bullshit, right? That's the game. But in actuality, they got a plan. And see, by them carving up, as long as everybody abide by how they structured about, okay, this is yours, you can't go beyond it. As long as everybody do that shit, they all can fit. Matter of fact, isn't there a map out there that shows you can fit all of Europe in Africa, all of Asia up in Africa? They done already show you, we all fitting here nice and comfortable, and as long as everybody buy their shit, we okay. But as long as we get their ass up out of there, right, we can get them the fuck up out of there. So what that happened? Conflicts. So they was just showing you Russia and they're training Africans. They ain't got Russians in there. They got Africans in there training them to fight against who? Or the Chinese gonna use who they people, which is gonna be. Boy, tell you. Enough being said, and that's too much being said. Okay, I got another piece for you on that part. Check this one out. We're almost at the end of the show, y'all. Almost there. So let me show you this. And let's see. I don't know why it's acting up like that tonight, but I'll take it.
Miss Bangui 2018.
Okay, now
beauty
wait,
pageant
hold
in a
on.
country torn by sectarian violence.
Come on.
Courtesy
Now when you
of the
see this
Russian
part here, check this out. Now check this out. All right, look what's going on over there. Look what's going on over there. Let me show you again. Come on back.
Miss Bangui 2018. A beauty pageant in a country torn by sectarian violence. Courtesy of the Russian Federation. The Russians are on a charm offensive in the Central African Republic. Meet Valery Zakharov, the new special advisor to the president, dispatched by Moscow. The Kremlin is keeping a close watch on a country the West is ignoring. 14 rebel groups are fighting one another, pitting Muslim and Christian communities against each other to control a country larger than France, rich in minerals, diamonds, and gold. From above, the scale of destruction becomes visible. These are abandoned villages and ghost towns after rebel attacks.
All countries are doing their best to help. To get peace is a challenge. There is no simple solution, but we think we can achieve this.
It is under Russian escort that we travel deep in the country to Bria in rebel-held territory. Here the Russians have set up a well-guarded small clinic. In the waiting room is a short video playing on repeat, celebrating this new alliance between the two countries.
Look, we get a little bit to eat, a little medicine. This is war. We will take the help that comes until we can return home.
Dr. Alesky Ivanov is treating 30 patients a day.
This is a community suffering from the trauma of war. The gunshots, the fear, and the lack of access to healthcare has made things worse for them.
In September, 30 Christians were killed by a Muslim militia in Bria, in what the UN described as potential war crimes and crimes against humanity. In the west, you have the anti-Balaka fighters that are in control. The center, east, and south are various Seleka militia groups fighting each other to control the area. We wouldn't be able to film here if we weren't under the escort of the Russians. They're right behind the camera and we can't film them. But since their arrival, the fighting here has stopped. 170 Russian military advisors are in the country. Some are deployed in the northern border. More are expected to come in the months ahead. Critics of the Kremlin say this operation is led by mercenaries here to steal diamonds in exchange for security, a claim they deny. While Russia's presence is unsettling to the West, the people of the Central African Republic, too often ignored, are now finally getting the attention they deserve. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Bangui.
Many Filipinos see the recent Association of Southeast Asian Forum in Singapore as a missed opportunity.
Oh my God, man. I don't know what to say, y'all. I know what to say. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. It's like they say, some things, as much as they say change happened, but some things just stay the same. They do the same old trick over and over and over. But again, as they say, if you don't study history, you bound to repeat it. Then the other night, then I read y'all about the story about the 2,550 say the people migrating into Canada. They talked about Nigeria. They talked about Haiti, right? And then I read you about the U.S. occupation in Haiti, right? And it talked about how the Germans, again, because when Dessalines was in Haiti, that he made laws where foreigners couldn't occupy and take the land, right? So what did the Germans start doing? They started to marry the indigenous of the land, the women. Now that gave them the legality of that to make it, okay, they weren't breaking law, using them to acquire land. Now it looks like, according to that story that I read in Newsweek, that French and the United States backed out to allow Russia to get in there, and then they gonna come in there as, again, the old saying is about create the situation, then come to resolve it. I'm gonna create the situation, and then here gonna Captain Saberhole gonna come in. Oh, we're gonna bandage you up. We're gonna give you food and medicine. Like the old children's story, Hansel and Gretel coming to the house made of candy. And all around the witch is ready to put your ass in the oven. That what that shit look like to y'all? Did you see anything different than what I just seen? 'Cause that's what I saw. Right? That's what I saw. And guess what? They helpless. Just like everyone is. At the mercy. Hopefully that you can find some kindness and goodness in them. But remember Rudolph from Germany told y'all. Remember that I played that other night, that Rudolph from Germany? That we are humans and they are from, and he told you the ideology that they all subscribe to and they all know. And they ain't willing to share. Man, okay. You see why I stay 100 over here, y'all? Do you see why? Do you see why I don't get past 200 no more? Yeah, I probably had about almost 3,000 people that can't get out of that block. You see why? Do you see why? All right. Next clip. See, it's that whole money game. See, everybody getting bumped. Everybody getting bumped. Right, let me show what I'm talking about when I say everybody getting bumped. They all getting bumped. So let me show you this one here.
Filipinos see the recent Association of Southeast Asian Forum in Singapore as a missed opportunity, and they're blaming the sleeping habits of President Rodrigo Duterte. He missed at least 5 events at the summit because his spokesman says the president needed to take power naps. The 73-year-old leader also dismissed the importance of a meeting with Australian diplomats.
Hindi ako kumakain ng breakfast.
The invite says it was an informal summit anyway. I don't eat breakfast. What do you think they will serve there? Kangaroo?
Anong ipakain lang dyan sa atin informal? Garok.
Remarks like that anger many here who say the Philippines is already damaging relationships with regional allies.
A framework on a code of conduct between China and ASEAN is expected to lay the ground rules for navigation and exploration in disputed waters. But now President Rodrigo Duterte says there's not much that can be done because he says the South China Sea is now in China's possession.
This week's visit by China's president is another reason to worry analysts.
Although it may be laughable, but for the Chinese, they will look at that and they will see that as a fundamental weakness within our capacity to resist them. So they will be very condescending with us. They will humor us, with agreements and so on and so forth. But it's how they look at us, a nation that just wants money.
Government leaders dismiss that, saying Xi Jinping's visit is aimed at strengthening economic ties, with hopes of securing more Chinese loans to fund infrastructure projects. Other more secret deals, such as the Maritime Research Agreement between Philippines and China, are worrying because of the lack of public scrutiny, especially after the Philippines won its case at an international tribunal 2 years ago about a territorial dispute in the South China Sea.
China is still an adverse claimant to much of the West Philippine Sea because, of course, aside from its sheer size economically and militarily, it has demonstrated that it is unwilling to compromise.
When he was sworn into office, Duterte promised to pursue an independent foreign policy, moving away from long-standing ally the United States and building closer relations with China and Russia. 2 years on, and some over here are wondering whether Duterte really wants more independence or is capitulating to China. Jamela Alindogan, Al Jazeera, Manila.
China spreading the money around. Everybody taking it. You take the money, you can't pay back. You know what collateral is, and that's what they looking at the Filipinos are saying. Hey, what happened to all that you said when we first put you in there, the Dutertes? You said we got away from the United States, and then you went and make deals. Okay, you bought guns from. I think they bought guns from Russia, right? And then they allied with them. So it's like what are we doing? I thought we were trying to be independent. Like, and the Duterte said, you can't be independent out here. You know what I'm saying? It's like being locked up, boy. You gotta be under the wing of somebody. You can't be out here like that, right? They ain't not understanding the long game of that shit, right? They don't know. So again, we see everybody is positioning, huh? Everybody, and here we again. Here we looking locally. We looking locally. We're not looking globally or internationally. We're not looking because, again, we got no horse in that race. So how can we? You don't got a nation. So how could you be part of that? You ain't got no nation. You ain't got no military. You ain't got no weaponry. You just be good consumers. Just keep buying. Don't wear your little nigger head on that shit, all right? We'll do the rest, okay? Just watch daddy. You keep being minorities. You keep being children. That's what you good at. Right? Let me move on, man. Get off here. Oh, I think everything shut off there too. Oh, I think they shutting me down. Oh, can y'all still hear me? Can you still hear me? Okay, look like they kind of shut it out. Like enough shit from you tonight, huh? They got me on straight lock. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? Let me see. They got me buffering. Huh? I can't move, y'all. So if you can hear my voice, give me time, because it look like they got me buffering. I'm not sure what's going on y'all end, but on my end, it is doing what it's doing. So again, maybe something I'm talking about is like they don't want me to talk about. You ain't supposed to be talking about that shit. You supposed to worry about your shit. That shit do got something to do with us. God damn it. That shit got something to do with us. So if they talking about MAGA, they must be talking about MAGA everywhere else around the motherfucking world. We just ain't been sitting at the table to understand the shit, right? Let's see what's going on here, because they sure got me locked out. They got me locked out, y'all. I can't. They got me locked out. They said enough of your shit. That's what they do every time. So y'all think I be making this shit up. It is what it is. All right, let's see. How long y'all gonna keep doing this, huh? Let's see. Come on. Can I get back in? Can I go and finish the show out? Let me just can I finish? All right, I'll get the fuck off. Let me just finish out my show. Damn, man. Bullshit, huh? So right now it's cycling. Matter of fact, let me check something, because see, I can't do nothing from this end right now. Oh yeah, it's the whole. Yeah, you gonna freeze me all the way out, huh? You gonna shut me all the way down, huh? They gonna shut me all the way down, y'all. All right, let's go. Let's see if y'all shut me all the way out here. Let's see. I don't think y'all shut me all the way out. Let's see. Oh yeah, shut the show down. Okay, if I still up there, I don't know if I can see me or not. I'm still trying to get back in. I don't know whether y'all can hear or not. So I know y'all can hear me, because I got something where I know y'all can hear me. So I can't end the show yet is because they got it froze up, right? The DOS attacked me so that I can't end the damn show. So they want the show to be so long at the end that, watch, you can't get the end of the show. I'm trying to get back in. I don't know whether y'all can hear or not. I'm gonna have to wait it out, y'all, just to see, because that's what they doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the show from here, right? And so again, I'm your host, the Whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Mind, come with another thought-provoking show. You're not going to get the ending tonight, So take it for how it is. Stay black, stay strong. Till the next show. Peace, love, and hair grease, y'all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end the show from here, right? And so, again, I'm your host, the Whiteologist, Mr.